live, so keep smiling. Okay, all right, here we go. Here we go. Now we got it. Cue the intro music.
That's been going.
Welcome to episode 65 of This is Jen. What I'm glad about is that I have properly set the tone for what this broadcast will be like. You may have noticed, friends, that on social media, I have mentioned that I am coming to Tampa and Omaha. I'm back on tour, and you may have noticed that this starts next week. And I bet what you are thinking is it's weird that I didn't hear that, like to the untrained eye. It could almost look like Jen didn't even know as of last Thursday that she's going to be in Tampa next week. To the untrained eye, it could come across that way. Well, that would actually be a very accurate assessment of the situation, which is why this podcast is off to a slightly haphazard start. UTA, United Talent, my new fancy agents, they hooked me up with some great opportunities. And it was one of those things, everything is really wild post-COVID, where they were like, so normally you would have more time to evaluate this, but we kind of need an answer in 30 minutes. Are you going to Tampa and Omaha? And you know me, I was like, well, the prudent answer, the right answer is to say, no, thank you, United Talent. I, for one, am not going to do this because that doesn't give me enough time to sell tickets. And this is true. This is facts. I will look very bad in the comedy industry if I don't move tickets to these shows. And here's what I found last time with the Naughty Corner tour. My fans are awesome. Like, my fans come out in droves with bells on. They wear all black. They're tearing it up. I had fans who brought flasks. I mean, wild people come out to these shows. But it takes a while for the word to get around because my fans are busy. They have lots of stuff going on. And so the smart thing to do would be to say, I decline these opportunities because I don't have enough time to make sure all my fans know that I'm coming to these cities. But instead you know what it was? Actually, what's interesting? I always, I give you guys the behind the scenes stuff. You know who, I'm just going to say it. You know whose fault this really is?
Who?
God. It's his fault because, so look, for non-Catholics, Sunday was the feast of Pentecost. And I had been doing a novena. A novena is a day of 9 prayers. Or no, a novena is 9 days of a novena is 9 days of prayers. A day of 9 prayers. Well, that's, I invent my own things here. And the biggest novena, here's one of my tangents. Here we go. We're 3 minutes into this podcast and we're on a tangent.
Start on novena.
Right. Well, last week it was astrophysics. And don't you think that I'm letting your comments about my UFO stuff last week go? Don't think for a minute that we're done with that. So friends, a novena is, you guys may have heard for my atheist listeners about the ascension of Jesus. So he returned to heaven. He was like, I'm out. And so when he first, I really didn't mean we did astrophysics last week. So now it's Christian history. I'm sorry. So he ascended, and then the people following him were like, well, what are we supposed to do now? Because we're definitely all going to be tortured to death. And so is there a plan, or did you want to give us some steps? And they just hid. I mean, they didn't do anything except they prayed for 9 days. And then that's when the Holy Spirit descended. And that's how, I'm not going to define the Holy Spirit because that's me getting into the theological deep end. We'll all be in trouble. So friends, there was this moment where God sent the Holy Spirit down, and there you go. Well, okay. So, and then that's what we celebrate at Pentecost, is that. So I had been doing the novena to the Holy Spirit, which is where you pray those prayers. I'm sorry if I have lost everyone who is not Catholic. I'm trying to educate you guys on our crazy beliefs here. So I'd been doing that novena, and this stuff came together with these tours, and there were just some signal graces related to that novena. And I was like, well, yeah, it seems like God is telling me to say yes. And so I said yes, even though on paper, I don't have enough time to let people know that I am coming to
It's all
town.
his fault.
So I know. So blame God. That's what I'll tell, the United Talent. I mean, their offices are in Beverly Hills. That is the address. They represent Sebastian Maniscalco, Nate Bargatze, Sarah Silverman. Yeah, like Jeff Foxworthy, the biggest
George
names.
Lopez.
George Lopez. I mean, really name a big name in comedy and they probably represent them. So I'll just get on the phone with my Beverly Hills agents and be like, could I tell you about the Ascension and what happened right after that? So the apostles were like, they prayed. And anyway, so that takes us to Pentecost. And it was just, I was caught
I need
up.
more time.
I was caught up in the spirit of Pentecost. And that is why I said yes to these shows without really having enough time to get the word out. So if you know people in Tampa and Omaha, do let them know that I will be there. The website is jfcomedy.com, jfcomedy.com. I registered that domain. You can look this up 12 minutes ago, like right before we went on the air. I registered it and got it to go to my website. Wait, what did I say? jfcomedytour.com. Did I say that? Did I say tour?
You said you didn't say tour.
Oh, no, that goes to a spam website. Look, thank you. You guys you're very patient with me. Thank you for hanging in there with me. jfcomedytour.com. This is like with my last tour, the Naughty Corner tour. Right. So JF Comedy, whatever is there is, we can probably get past that. When people were just typing in naughtycorner.com instead of naughtycornertour.com, that was worse. That was a scenario that did not turn out as well.
Good.
Tell people in Omaha and Tampa that I will be there. And one thing is I'm very excited about my new stand-up comedy. I'm oddly enough, it's like really coming together, even though it's all kind of last minute. I have some stuff I think you guys will really like. jfcomedytour.com. Now, before we get into, I decided that I'll tell you guys, I want to review a brief, like my atheist to Catholic conversion story, because oddly enough, it is the non-Catholics who follow me. People, they're not religious or they dabble with Buddhism or whatever. They're like, yeah, we're not from the Catholic ghetto. We're not from that world. So we don't know, like, we're just you mentioned that a lot on the podcast. We're curious about that. So you know what? I'll have Shady time me. I'll have her time me for 5 minutes. And it's not now. Hang on. So I'll cover that in 5 minutes. Because I have had a lot of requests to explain that. One of the, okay, you think I'm kidding, but the other thing that I thought was a signal grace about saying yes to Tampa when I knew that I would have 11 days to let many people know, like I need a lot of people to know I'm going to be there. When I knew I'd only have 11 days, one of the things that actually changed it for me, that made me think that maybe I should do this. So I was speaking in Tampa. I did a beautiful, wonderful speaking engagement there. I want to say maybe 2016. I don't remember the name of it, but these people were wonderful. I really enjoyed chatting with them. And I gave a talk, and the other speaker, I wish I remembered the name of the other speaker because she was incredible too. So it was a women's event and it was a faith-based event. It was like, very, very sincere, very much like we're just praying, we're lifting each other up, and just, I mean, again, not women like me, who are obviously troubled and cynical. Like these are really great women there. And so their whole thing is like, let's be women of hope. Let's be women of joy. And so the very sweet organizers ordered balloons, in big, massive balloons that said hope, HOPE. However, friends, the the P didn't arrive. So I'm sharing the
You
screen
texted
here.
me that.
Yes, I texted Shady this at the time. Those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube will be able to see this. The P did not arrive, but they had they'd set up all the other balloons. They thought it was in there. So instead the letters just say HOE. And again, you can see the picture, Facebook and YouTube. So you just have these massive balloons that say HO little gap E, and it's a women's conference. So there was all of this, late, imagery and wording targeted at women, like welcome ladies, and then you have these big balloons that say ho at the. It was so amazing. It was such a special moment in my life, and
I'm glad you
and
shared that.
and that is my memory of Tampa. And I should say they fixed it. I mean, they got the P, and that's isn't that a metaphor for life?
That's all we.
That sometimes all you have is ho, but
Wait
hold
for the
on,
P.
your P is arriving. God is going to send your P.
It's on the way.
It's on the your P is on the way.
It'll all be fine.
Your P is on the way. And because God can turn ho into hope.
Yep, he usually does.
Turn ho into hope. That's my motto. And that is a lesson.
Mug.
Wait a minute. I've been trying to think of merch. Hang on. I'm literally writing this down. Merch. See, you can see I'm writing this down. Ho into hope. And whatever, I want that. You know what I'll do? I will sell that merch because only 5 people will buy it. Only 5 people will buy my ho into hope mug. But the 5 people who do, I will get their addresses and I will drive to their houses to hang out with them because we're the same person.
With the P balloon.
Yeah, right. If you think that's amazing, then you and I are the same person. Yeah, okay. Merch alert. I've never sold merch.
Alert.
That's going to change because I think I like it when podcasters I follow sell merch. Okay, so we checked that box. So that is why, not even kidding, I'm serious. When I was thinking about whether or not to do the Tampa event, I really was thinking well,
It could be a missed opportunity.
that's a city that turns ho into hope. So I think I'll say yes. So that event is coming right up June 4th and 5th. Oh, and if you saw on Instagram that I posted it and then it was deleted. You probably shared it with your friends and it was deleted. I truly believe I have some form of dyslexia, some kind of undiagnosed learning disorder. The typos that I create when I do this stuff are unbelievable. I'm doing all this myself because it's last minute and I put the wrong date on the first one. And so honestly, I'm counting that as a win. The fact that I even caught it, that it was the wrong date.
True.
Also 2 typos sent out to my email list. Winning at life. jfcomedytour.com. All right. Shady, do you have an apparatus that we could use to mark the time so that I can tell you, since people have asked, I say, because it defines a lot about my personality that I was raised atheist. And now I'm in what I affectionately call the Catholic ghetto. Because you know a lot about that person. You don't even have to know who I am to. Okay. All right. Tell me when we're going.
And start.
I was raised atheist. And by the way, I did not prepare this at all. You might think I have some bit ready. I've been dealing with tour stuff. So I was raised atheist, and not like, oh, we just didn't talk about religion. My dad especially was really concerned about just sort of religion as mind control. And, to be honest, we lived around some Christians who were maybe not living the gospel as well as they could have. So I understand how my dad got there. And so we didn't own a Bible or anything. There wasn't a Bible in the house. And actually there was some old heirloom copy that was, brought over to Texas on a covered wagon or something. So super atheist. But I will say my dad always, he taught me to seek truth and question assumptions, even if you don't like if you're uncomfortable where the conclusions lead you, because he was a very scientific minded kind of person. So he's like, you have to seek truth and question assumptions. And so I just thought atheism was 100% right. And but we live in the philosophical shallow end of the pool in this culture. So I was I started at Texas A&M University. I transferred from Texas A&M to UT to get away from the Christians. You can ask people who knew me at the time. Allison Stivers from Houston. She's deep in the Catholic world, so some people know her. She was my college roommate. She was Baptist. I was atheist. She's Catholic now too. But she can vouch for this. I left A&M because it was too religious. I could not be. I was the only atheist, and so like all these Christians would try to evangelize to me, and it just felt like they, there were 70,000 students there, and I think I might have actually been the only atheist at the time. So I went to UT because that's like how much I was not into Christians. And that accomplished. I was like, what I like about Austin is the atheism, but I mean, just wall to wall atheists in this city. And let's face it, I was not wrong, still not wrong. And so that went on and on. Then I met my husband. I didn't think he was religious. I just assumed he wasn't, because his deal is, you can skip ahead a little bit if you're watching this when it's not live, if you already know this, but my husband grew up poor. He was raised by a single mother. They were like super poor. Like, she didn't often know where dinner was coming from. And they couldn't run the heat in the winter. I mean, it was Houston, so they were all right. But very poor. She had no education beyond, I don't think my mother-in-law finished high school. Like, she didn't have running water in the house that she grew up in. I mean, like, that level of poverty. So she told him, okay, I have 2 minutes left. She told him to go to get an education. She had heard in the movies, she had heard of like the fancy Ivy League schools. I did not know what the SATs were. I had no idea how you would go to schools like that. He went to Yale undergrad, graduated in 3 years with honors, Columbia Law School, Stanford Business School, studied in the Master's Computer Science program at Stanford. And he was a tech executive when I met him. And he's not now, but that's what he did at the time. And so I assumed he was an atheist because I thought smart people were atheists. The 5 minute, yeah, give me this is okay. So that was the first thing that was the first rock that had to move from me. You know what? Turn off that timer, because I just thought of something that needs to be said. Nobody talks about this when they talk about religion and conversion. And this is actually an important point. And I've seriously never heard anyone talk about this. So this is for the two of you who care about the subject of like atheism and why kids become atheists and all that. You're about to get some hot fire. This is going to be an exciting podcast for you. For me, now there are different types of atheists, and plenty of people, they just don't have faith. They're not into it. I'm not speaking of those types of people. But the people who are very mouthy about being atheists, like Jeremy McClellan, that's not him. I'm saying that he tweeted something. He tweeted this guy who was being really rude about the Palestinian conflict. And he was saying, these guys are just arguing over, here it is. So I can't pronounce this guy's name. There are a lot of consonants and Y's, and so I'm not intentionally not naming him. Sank is his first name. I don't know. Israelis and Palestinians kill each other over which sky god they pretend to speak to. It's politically incorrect to point out that there's no human god, let alone one that favors Jews or Muslims, because he favors Christians. No, I'm kidding. All this violence over the equivalent of which character they like better in the Marvel comic universe. So I was that kind of atheist who was just obnoxious to everyone. I offended all of the monotheistic religions. And I was actually talking to this about one of my friends who is Jewish. And we were just saying that, like, people who blow off monotheistic belief in that way, like, and again, I'm not speaking of people who are like, I don't know, I've just kind of, I just don't believe it. I didn't really see evidence that convinced me, but who literally compare it to fairy tales and imply that people who are believers, like Galileo, Newton, Descartes, like all of these great minds of history. I mean, Socrates had some sort of belief in like something, but oh no, these guys are idiots. These guys are idiots. But these dudes on Twitter and on the Reddit forums, like, okay, they have it all figured out. Like, and they're just like galaxy brain compared to these great minds of history. Many of them pioneers in science who believed in the flying spaghetti monster equivalent, who believed in a sky daddy. People who mouth off like that.
Sky daddy.
You haven't heard that?
No.
I'm sorry to introduce you to the term sky daddy. I used to, when I had a different YouTube channel, I used to mix it up with YouTube atheists. So I heard this a lot. Life was hard back then. I'm so glad I do comedy now. Yeah. And so again, this friend of mine who is Jewish was saying, like, I get so sick of that too, to have like, our religion is pretty old. So you really think, like, they were like, our religion dates back thousands and thousands of years. You really think that all of these people who believed and who sacrificed their lives and who were persecuted for this belief system of ours, they believed in just a fairy tale, a Marvel character, like a flying spaghetti monster, sky daddy, like, that is insulting to the point of being pathological. So anyway, I was one of those. I was very obnoxious. And you know what it is? So here's the point that you really don't hear people say very often. For atheists who are like that, obnoxious in that way, there is a desperate need to seem smart, to seem like that. Atheism is like a brand, like how someone might wear Gucci. They might like blow too much money on Gucci if they want to seem rich. Atheism is a brand that you can put on to make yourself seem smart. And a lot of young men I see who glom on to atheism and in the forums and in the YouTube channels and all that, a lot of times what is really at the root of this is a desperate, they have a lot of pain, especially around the issue of intelligence. And the profile that I see very often and that I fit when I was younger is they are smart. They really are. And they know they're smart, but something has blocked them from being able to show that to the world. Like someone I'm thinking of in particular who I knew, he like one of the smartest guys I've ever met, but he failed all of his classes in school, like terrible grades. His parents were really hard on him for it. Other kids made fun of him, and he became one of those flying spaghetti monster kind of atheists. And I'm not saying that he would have been a devout Christian without that, but I am saying that the fuel that drives that kind of derision and that kind of, like in this case, talking about Jews and Muslims, like really, really all of them throughout the ages, your intelligence is up here, Mr. Galaxy Brain. And like everyone who's ever been a Jew or a Muslim is just like intelligence wise, way, way lower than you. The impetus that would make someone that insane is an insecurity about intelligence. And so if you spot that, I think one of the things that could have that drove a lot of my like stress and insecurity around the subject, even though I had good reasons for being an atheist. I should say that wasn't the only thing. I did think that there was a lack of evidence for the Judeo-Christian worldview and all that, but a driving force behind my obnoxiousness and why I would not listen to reasonable points was that I had pain around the issue of intelligence. That, I mean, I thought I was smart, but then I'd had some things happen in college that made me feel like I wasn't able to demonstrate that, and it was frustrating. But about being this philosophical shallow end. I mean, these kids at A&M at the time, we have to educate our kids on theology better, because I would seriously, Shady, I would talk to these kids. And I at the time being an atheist, I would be like, yeah, if there's a loving God, why would he allow suffering? And they'd be like, wow, she is the first person to ask that question. No one's ever thought of that. Wow, there's not an answer to that. That's amazing. So it was like shooting fish in a barrel, being the atheist like debater at A&M. Okay, so we're more than 5 minutes into this, but I had to make that point about intelligence because no one ever talks about it. And then, so it was really that, here's the bottom line. I did a bunch of research. I read a bunch of books, literally had spreadsheets. And the conclusion I came to so the first sort of domino that fell was me seeing that my husband wasn't religious at all, but he did believe in God and believe in Jesus. And I didn't even know this until we'd been dating for months because he never talked about it. But once I realized, like, okay, you can be smart and believe this stuff, because I would meet Joe's friends from Yale. He has a bunch of friends from Harvard. I mean, Joe's friends are like someone. We went to dinner with someone who was like, he has a, let's see, he graduated honors physics from Harvard and is also a doctor, and I think he's becoming a lawyer. So like these are the people that my husband knows. And a lot of them were religious. So once that domino fell and I was like, okay, this is getting weird for me to say that I'm just so much like that no one can comprehend the genius of us atheists. Then I just had to realize that things can be true even if you can't prove them in a scientific laboratory. So if someone says, does your girlfriend or does your wife love you? Can you prove that? I mean, because let's say you're like, well, yeah, I know she loves me because, she gets me nice things for my birthday, or she tells me I'm great. And someone could be like, yeah, but what about the time she yelled at you? What about the time, she said something mean to you? You can play this game with evidence all day long. And at the end of the day, you have to take a risk. You have to take a risk and say, maybe I feel something here that I'm going to call love. And I'm going to take a psychological risk that this is real. That this is real, even if it doesn't make sense to other people, and even if I can't prove it in a scientific laboratory. And so to believe in God is essentially to believe, like when you believe that someone loves you, your mother loves you, or your husband or your wife loves you. To believe in God is just to believe in the source of that love. That's all it is. And so if you're willing to say, okay, I believe my dad loves me, even though I cannot go into a laboratory and prove this, even though someone could present evidence, what about this? What about that? I believe that. And if you can take that leap, then you can take the leap that maybe the source of that love exists. And you shouldn't have this courtroom mentality. You shouldn't have like a courtroom mentality of this has to be able to be proven, that's not how we know those kinds of truths. Did that leave me a comment if you get what I'm saying? I don't know. I probably lost people, but that is my attempt, because people have asked, especially people who are not from the Catholic world who don't know that story. That is my best effort at explaining it, because a lot of times when I reference that, people are like, how does that happen? And I mean, I wrote a whole book about it. You can read the book about it. Okay. So we covered that. And by the way, I would like to give a special shout out to the fly in this room that has quieted down. When we started this broadcast, there was a fly. It was like that. There's some horror movie where there's a fly. What is the name of that movie? Where there's a fly. Well, I don't know, but it was like a horror movie in this. We're trying to focus. We're trying to set up these shots. We're trying to get this going. And like, there's just this, yeah. And I know someone probably, and you can leave a comment, like if you have a solution for how to get rid of flies. My kids found that solution. They did the thing where you put a bowl and you put, what was it? Dish soap?
That was actually my solution.
That was Shady. Okay, well, tell us what you did. Speak up, speak loudly.
It's just like a little bit of dish soapy water with apple cider vinegar, and it attracts them, and when they get it, they die in it.
So,
it's pretty gross. But
what is psychologically troubling to me about this is that as a busy woman, and you moms know how this is, and also I'm a woman. I'm not only a busy woman, I'm a woman who doesn't like waste. I try to not be wasteful when it comes to the blessings of food and drink and things like that. So I often, maybe I'm the only one who does this, but I often will, I'll just grab sort of leftovers off the counter. Like, let's say the other day, my kid poured a big glass of milk and they only drank a third of it. And that, like, I feel like there's a part of me, and there is another universe in which I could have been vegan. I'm not, but like, I see how you get there. I really try not to waste animal products. Like it's sort of I'm like a closet wannabe vegan, sort of, not really, but I'm not at all, but I see how you get there. So I have a thing. I really try not to waste animal products. You know, if it's like some spinach or something, whatever. I don't like to waste food, but animal product, I don't know. I try. And oh, the fly's back. Uh,
He's in a
and
big
so I
cage.
will often like I drank that milk that my kids left out because I just didn't want to waste it. Same thing with the food they leave out and everything. A lot of times, and a lot of moms do this. I will come in. They've gotten themselves lunch, and I'll just see leftover food or a soda or something, and I've just gotten in the habit that I'll finish it for them, and often that is what you call a meal. So it is deeply psychologically distressing to me, deeply, when there are things that are not that I would not want to put in my mouth sitting out. So they've done it with dog food. My husband did this one time with some kibbles and bits that looked mighty delicious. And the way they should not. If when I am president, it will be against the law. It will be against the law to make any pet food that looks like human food, because this dog food could have been beef stroganoff. It was too human-y. Not like made of humans, but like for humans. It looked too good. And I didn't taste it. But it's like, it's the thought that I could have, that I wasn't that far away from being like, I'd like a piece of beef as much as the next girl. Yes, I will put this in my mouth.
Taco meat.
Yeah, like right, could be taco. We don't know, because that's the other thing is, the kids
know around our house.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like different people are making different things in my house all the time. And it's a very Darwinian situation at our house, that you just you take what you can get in terms of food, and if you're not on it, then you might miss out. And it's really survival of the fittest. It's I've never seen Hunger Games, but if it involves people competing violently for a scarcity of resources, that's what getting some snacks is like in my house. So so I do that a lot. And so I thought I saw, we've gotten some blue sodas. They're
Oh no.
I know Shady knows where this is going.
Oh, no.
They're blueberries. It's a blueberry flavor. And I came home after a long day and I wanted refreshment. You were
parched.
And I was on the phone.
Oh no.
And I was doing a million things, and my hand, slow-mo here for you guys watching the video. Oh, like I feel like there should be when you slow-mo in a video, it's like my hand reached for the mug, and I pull it up, and because it was blueberry flavor. What do blueberries look like, Shady? What is something else that a blueberry could look like? A dead fly? So I was thinking, wow, next level. Blueberry soda with blueberries in it. And I'm on the phone. I was like this. I didn't have my AirPod. I'm on the phone like blah, 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 blah. Ooh, blueberries, delicious. The cup got within a foot of my mouth. The cup of dead flies got within a foot of my mouth. So we need to I'm blaming you guys. I'm blaming Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, people listening on podcast. No, this isn't on Twitter. YouTube, you're all like, I'm just like firing blindly. Like everyone needs to make sure that this never happens again. So it worked. I will say it worked. What did you do? Because it works. Thank you. I am getting comments. People feel me. They feel me.
Apple cider vinegar. It works amazing.
Dish. Okay, what is it?
So water with a little bit of dish soap, just enough to make it tiny bit blue, and apple cider vinegar, and that's it. So just like a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of dish soap, and a good amount of water.
Yeah, and they're not blueberries. It's dead flies. Not blueberries. And so yeah, it's a tough choice. Like, do I want to live like I'm in a horror movie that was yeah, right, or do I want to drink dead fly juice? It is.
I would go with neither. How about we label it?
Oh, Shady with the solutions. Like, hey, I'm trying to be a drama queen over here, and Shady is like, well, we could label it. We could put a note on it, like, Jen, don't put this in your mouth. But then where does that end? You have to put everything in the house. Like, Jen doesn't understand anything.
Not for real.
Check flies. Here, okay, I'll tell you. I debated on whether to say this. Okay, I'll say it. Well, I think yeah, okay, I'll say it. You know how I'm always talking about how friends, it's never about you, and you can't take things personally. And if you are going to put yourself out there, like be the person that you are meant to be, the best version of yourself. And that could be in some sort of career, work, or public way. Or I mean, like just with your family, just in your neighborhood, in your kids' school, whatever it is. Like we all have this highest and best version of ourselves where we are contributing. It's like, as they would say in business, like our highest and best use. Well, for sure, that is going to involve connecting with other people, like in some form or another, whether it's talking to your neighbor, giving that kid's teacher a phone call. You will have to put yourself out there. And because I am a socially anxious person, I have developed a following of socially anxious people. Which, by the way, makes it so fun when I do these comedy tours. Like we're all so socially awkward.
Hey.
It's fun. jfcomedytour.com to get tickets to Tampa, Omaha, new cities coming soon. And I did say tour, right? jfcomedytour.com. I am not only socially anxious, but socially awkward. I used to be the number 2 Google result for socially awkward person. If you type that in, interacting with other human beings is a stressful thing for me. I think that's why I do comedy tours and live events, because I can control this. So I don't know, like I'm going to Nashville this weekend for a friend's wedding. And I have a lot of both personal and business connections in Nashville. Like I'm going to see Heather Land. She is amazing. If you don't follow her, you have to follow her. She's the one, she does the face filter rant videos where like she'll rant against CrossFit and stuff like that. So I am definitely meeting with her and some other great people. And follow Heather Land if you don't already. She is just a stellar human being. I love her. Okay, so I texted John Christ. You know who he is,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I texted him, and we know each other, but we've never like hung out. Yes, yeah, to the person who commented, are we supposed to be taking notes? Always. Who would listen to this podcast without notebook, pen, paper, PowerPoint open? Yes, take notes. So I texted John Christ a couple of hours ago and said, hey, do you want to get together while I am in Nashville? And again, we're not like friends. We're we're like, I mean, we're acquaintances. We've hung out in person as part of other events a couple of times.
Colleagues.
So it was a social risk. Let me put it that way. It was a social risk in the sense that I don't know, like it is unclear to me whether John sees me as a colleague or as a rando. Are you ever in situations like that?
Not yet.
Really? But no, but in like normal life, like it's like
normal life, yeah. Especially like when I'm
I wasn't asking
I was
like Shady, have you
how many
texted John Chris?
celebrities are you texting?
Because what was your experience texting him? No, I mean like when like you think you're cool with someone and they might want to hang out, but they also might block you for asking. Do you see like
Yeah.
And because that happens in normal life. I will have you know the man has not replied. And I'm not letting this get in my head. I will not, because he's busy.
Just on the podcast.
Right. No, right. Yeah, I'll just do a whole bit about it on my podcast. But no, he's busy. That's probably what it is. That's
probably like
and look, and I want you guys to know. You hear about me doing the comedy tours and things like this. Like I get blown off and rejected by people on an almost daily basis, because that's what it is. Like I'm getting into an industry that I was not previously in. It requires one social risk after another, and most of them end up being weird. And so I want to encourage you, take a risk. And like maybe that person who you saw at church who you think, oh, I'd love to be friends with that person, but I don't like, they don't know who I am. Like, has that ever happened to you where you're like, I should be friends with that person?
It takes me a long time.
I know. And because I never know how to say like, hi, we should be friends. Like that's a creepy thing to say.
You're like, I love you.
I
Just
know. And
kidding.
yeah, well, yeah, because it's like, hey, because there was someone I saw years ago at mass, and like, how do you say, like, hey, I was staring at you, and I like the way you look. I like
You
the way
look
you
real
look, and
good.
it makes me think we should hang out. Like, how do you say that? I'll get tasered. I'll get arrested. And by the way, I did end up becoming friends with that person. I was like, I could tell by her vibe
I
that
thought you were
we'd
gonna
like
say
each
you
other.
got tased. And I did. I did.
And I did. My probation officer is very happy with how it turned
I
out.
did end up getting tased.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly how it turned out. So the moral of the story is wear a bulletproof vest if you're going to do any of this. No, the moral of the story is I get blown off all the time, and I get in socially awkward situations all the time. And yeah, someone says, I hate that I can totally relate right now. Danielle, yes. Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Because sometimes you say things like this and it's like, people are like, wow, this never happens to me. I don't know what you're talking about. And or sometimes I'll get myself invited to some event and then I just don't I don't really fit in while I'm there. This is my life, is being in awkward situations and getting blown off and having, it happens a lot, but it's because I'm putting myself out there. So the bottom line, and yes, I hope you're taking notes on this, is being your boldest self, offering the world, your family, the people around you, your highest and best use. It involves constant social risk, and that will look different for other people. But just know that when that person is like, no, I don't want to go to lunch, or that the kid's teacher is like, why are you here? Please leave, or whatever, whatever. Not that that's ever happened to me. Just know that that does happen to other people too. Other people meaning Jen. Because I think the problem is when things like that happen, I tend to feel like everyone else is so socially skilled that this is not their life experience. This only happens to me. I'm the only one who has people blow me off and make me feel uninvited, or what. And I'm not saying John Christ is doing this. I mean, we're not, it would not be expected that we would be palling around at Nashville together while I'm there. But for other people, some people have kind of hurt my feelings with the level at which they blow me off. And I want you to know that that is a normal part of life, at least for me, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not for other people. Maybe it really, maybe it really is just me. So get your tickets. I am in Tampa. I am in Omaha. jfcomedytour.com. If anyone has any ideas for how I can let people know I'm coming, with the, like I said, with my last tour, it took me a few weeks to just get the word out.
What about one of those airplanes with a banner?
An airplane banner.
Yeah.
I like that. That is a. I'm Googling this. Hang on. How much does it cost to rent to have an airplane? Right. Oh, fly a banner. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Airplane banner cost. U.S. air rads. Okay. Yeah, see, no one will tell you the price. I feel like
you have to get a quote.
You have to get a quote, right? No, shady.
Oh no, is it expensive?
No,
it's not expensive.
It's not. No, rates are like $3.75 an hour.
That's not bad.
Well, especially like we're dealing with some big numbers flying around here with a tour like this. That's pocket change for a comedy tour. Click here to fly your message. Aerial advertising.
Hey.
Oh, don't think I won't do it. You guys don't think. Okay. All right. Aerial. That's what it's called. Aerial. AER. Aerial advertising. Tampa.
So fun.
Oh no, I should fly it over Ave Maria. That's I know a lot of my people are there. That's near Naples, Florida. Love that area. Yeah, if you know anyone in Ave Maria, tell them I'm coming to Tampa. It's close enough. They can drive. Tampa, Florida, aerial advertising. Oh, okay. All right. Here we go. Oh, but there are only certain places you can fly over. Well, we'll figure this out. I'm going to send them over. Ave Maria, Florida. Look out for my aerial ad. Shady thinks outside of the box. This is amazing. Okay. So this is jfcomedytour.com is where you get your tickets, and watch my social media closely. One, I have a new sketch I'm about to put out, but two, there are more cities coming. There was actually one I had to turn down because it was over 4th of July weekend. I was like, I think my people are busy over 4th of July weekend.
Everyone.
Yeah, it was a city in Ohio that I had to say, I'll come back to Ohio when it's not 4th of July weekend. But we know where the hot spots are, like Orange County, Philly, Pittsburgh, Detroit, other places in Florida. Yeah, so we'll get it. We're getting other cities. jfcomedytour.com, and watch my social media for updates. Shady, you can cue the exit music. Thank you so much for joining us. And you know what? I will do this. This podcast will be live every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Central. Thank you very much for joining us. And we will be back with you next week here on This Is Jen.